Hi, guys. This is Denise.
Hi, it's Elsa. Welcome to.
Forever 30s. Hey, so
Hi.
excited.
Same. I'm really, really excited about this topic. It's helped me so much, so I'm ready to share.
Yes, I think it's made us closer. It's something that now we advocate. We tell everybody we're so
Hmm.
pro it. Everybody that I talk to, it's therapy. That's what we're going to talk about. I think we're the biggest therapy fans now, and let's dig deep. Do you want to talk about the reasons we got into therapy, how it's working? What else?
Yeah, what we've learned the most, what we would tell people who are thinking about getting into therapy.
The
Start with
benefit.
how did we decide to go into therapy?
I had done a little bit of, I don't know what that difference is in counseling therapy, like different verbiages for it. I'm assuming it depends on different licenses that they carry. But
Hmm.
I did a little bit of counseling. This was when Biddy was little, it was like back in the day, and it was just a few sessions. I don't know why it just didn't click with me so much, but I think the reason I reached out to it was because I started getting panic attacks and I didn't want to resort to like anxiety pills. And not that there's any judgment to it,
Hmm.
but I think I'm just scared of getting hooked onto something. But I wanted to see something if there was more
So,
natural ways for it first to help out. And I went into some counseling. It wasn't my vibe. And I think that's since when I started just like self help books, everything that like I could see, like yoga. I did a few classes of anger management, which looking back, I think is dumb because they tell you how to control it, but not why you're angry, if that
hmm
makes any
hmm
sort of
hmm
sense. And then
hmm
recently, so that was just like briefly, it was something that was just like, that's when I was introduced to it. But last year, 2022, November 2022, I was in a horrible car accident and I couldn't do anything. I couldn't walk, I couldn't shower, I couldn't use the restroom by myself. And I felt like the depression hit right away. And I knew I wasn't okay and I knew I needed to ask for help, but I didn't want to say that like D word. It was too strong for me. And I looked for a therapist.
Yeah.
And I remember she kept canceling on me. I saw one and I thought I liked her, and she kept canceling. She kept canceling. And I looked for another one, and that was Laura. And I've been with her since then. And I love her. Like, she's not getting rid of me for no reason. Like, there's not a reason. Like, she can, like,
Can we move into the same senior home?
seriously. No, I love her. And ever since then, I think you do have to click with the therapist. I think you also have to want the therapy. I think you don't just go to therapy to say like, ¿qué me vas a hacer? Or what are you here to offer? I think you have to, like everything, you have to be wanting to do it. You have to have el empeño, the willingness to change, to get deep, deep. And also her. I think she has such an inviting space that I love her and she's changed my life. And I tell her and I'm like, you don't get it. Like I want to shake you. Like you don't get how much you're changing my life and you're changing my kids' lives and my partner's life and like
Hmm.
it's a domino effect. Domino
Yes.
effect.
Yep.
But good news, I just got my paperwork and she's like, we checked off the depression.
Okay.
I am no longer depressed. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. So I'm happy about that. I'm like, oh. And I
Awesome. I'm
just
so
think
happy
back
for
to when I
you.
started, I'm
Yeah.
like, that was such a dark time in my life.
How many months after your accident did you start therapy?
Not months, weeks.
Okay.
It
Okay.
was actually no, 1 month. 1 month. Because I was in the hospital. I want to say it was like 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks. I don't remember. And I got out just for Veres Quinceañera.
Hmm.
Days, like 3 days before Veres Quinceañera or something. And then that week I went and started searching. It was weird. I always thought depression was just that you're like, you don't get it. I couldn't move. But like you don't get out of a room or something, but it's you just genuinely don't find joy in anything. I remember I had all my books and I love reading. I couldn't, it's so weird. It's, and I'm like, this isn't okay. And I know it was normal to cry because it was something so traumatic, but the sadness that like it was something so deep, I'm like, I'm not okay and I can't, like, I need help.
Yeah, and that's important. Like the fact that you were able, strong enough to recognize that you needed help and strong enough to accept it, because it wasn't just about how tragic the accident was, but everything that came from it too, and how much your life has changed.
It's the biggest blessing. I've said it 1,000 times. I think it's the worst thing that's ever happened to me. No se lo deseo a nadie en la vida, but that was such a turning point in my life. Like, my life did a complete 180 because there's nothing in my life that is the same, I feel, except for the people, but nothing in my life that's the same. Like my mentality, the
Yeah.
nothing, nothing, nothing. What made you look for therapy? What made you think that it was time for therapy? What made you start it?
So I knew I needed help. I definitely did in several aspects of my life. But I had tried couples therapy before for a couple months, and I didn't like it. I hated it. I would leave therapy worse than I did coming in. And I think it's so different from now, where I'm going in and we talk about hurtful stuff or whatever, and I come out feeling relieved from what we talked about, right? Where back then, me acuerdo que I would like leave therapy and I would just be quiet in the car with him, and I didn't want to look at him. I didn't want to talk to him. And I was just like, no. And so I had this misconception. I guess therapy really is expensive, but I hadn't really looked into my benefits, and I didn't realize how good my benefits are and that they covered therapy. And in August last year,
100%?
I got into the biggest fight. No,
Sorry.
I paid $25.
That's so good. And that's so good also to like check into it because not everybody
It is
knows.
really
You
good.
just tell them that it's expensive.
Yeah. And then so um I got into the biggest fight of my life with my mom in August, and it was the nastiest, with the most low blows, with the screaming, and it all happened in front of Natalia. And that was just like I wish I could take back that day. um I do and I don't, because I'm here now. But
No me acuerdo.
so they were the it was it's so hard for me to like, my mom, you have the two most important people in my whole life in a car with me traveling, and we're just have this big old blowout, and the drive's 8 hours and we're stuck with each other in the car until we get home. And that was it. I was like, I don't ever want to feel like this ever again. I don't want to fight with my mom ever again like that. I don't want my daughter to witness me fighting like that with anyone ever again. I don't one day want to like fight with her like that ever. And it was just my hopes that I could one day be the best mom that I can, like my healed version of whether that is whatever I have from my childhood or from past relationships, or whatever, like I just wanted to heal. I wanted to feel at peace. I remember not talking to my mom for weeks, and it was killing me because I wanted to talk to her, but I couldn't forgive the things that she said to me, and I didn't want to feel that way. And so I started to look for therapy, and this is actually funny. I had signed up with this lady around here because I really wanted like in-person therapy at the
Mhm.
time. I really was, I just need to be in a room with this lady, and I wanted a Hispanic person that I could do my Spanglish with. So this lady in Chandler, so I booked my appointment, and it's like weeks away. And the day of the appointment, I get a call from her office, and they're like, "Hey, we're calling to reschedule because she had a family emergency, so we have to cancel." And I was like, "Oh, dang, I was all ready and excited." And me dice la receptionist, I just want to make sure that you're in the right place. And I'm like, "Okay, what do you mean?" And she's like, "This is for people with mental needs, but also people who abuse substances. She's like,
Yeah,
it has to be both.
that I came across with.
And she's like, is that you? Just I was like, not yet, but like I'm on my way there, ma'am. Like I was already pretty deep in my drinking, not
Oh my
like every day or anything, but when I would drink on the weekends, I wouldn't drink every day. But when I would drink, man, I can hold my liquor. I was having AMFs on the regular when I was going out. So then you and I happened to go to dinner to catch up. And you and I are sitting there at BJ's sharing some nachos and pizza
God.
and just talking and talking. And you happen to share with me that you were in therapy. And I tell you, oh, I'm looking for a therapist. Y me pasó esto. And you're like, oh my God, call my lady. And I remember looking her up on her website and everything that she talks about. So then I sent her a message, and then she calls me and we do the little interview pre meeting, whatever. And I really liked her vibe. And this was just like a phone call, right? And what I was really hesitant was like it was virtual. And I was like, oh my God, how am I going to convey to her that I'm struggling, right? Like, how are you going to be able to tell?
Without the energy,
And then
like,
we had
of the
that
presence.
first, andale.
Mhm.
Uh huh. So then we have the first official like meeting or session. And I don't think I've ever cried so much in my life. And I don't, I hate crying. I hate it. It's just like I feel so weak. But she always tells me like allow yourself to feel. And I just feel like a lot of it is just she's so sweet, she's so nice, she's so kind, but she's not afraid to tell me like, hey, like aquí te pasaste, or like this or that, or in a kind way and in a reflective way to help me be like, okay, did I did this person say this to me and mean it that way, or did I make it mean that because of whatever's going on in my head? And I do feel like it's helped me be at peace with a lot of my decisions in the past, because I used to always say I knew better and I still did it. And she's like, but you didn't know better. Because if you knew that that was going to be the outcome, wouldn't you have done it? And it was like, well, no. And so I feel like my family's noticed a change. My friends, my coworkers have noticed a change in me. And so I'm happy, and I know that I have a lot of work, and I see her every week since September now. And the way that I feel like I can sleep better, I don't feel my stress or my anxiety levels at an all-time high every day. I used to just never sleep because I would sit there and think about all the worst things that could happen in the world. She's helped me go of the leash a little bit with Natalia, because I would have her here like, no, you're not going to leave my side because I don't want anything to happen to you. And I let her go on a play date with her friend and her parents during Christmas time without me. And I had never in the history of my life ever done that. Obviously, I was tracking her on her phone.
Did your parents do that with you?
I could never hang out with friends if my parents weren't there. I could hang out with my cousins on my mom's side of the family. I could go to their house or hang out, but not with friends. Even if my parents had known their parents and they've been friends forever, never. And then sleepovers were just not a thing. Like
Yeah.
I couldn't go sleep somewhere and someone couldn't come sleep over. With Natalia, I still don't think I'll ever be comfortable enough to tell her she could go to a sleepover, but people can come sleep over here. And so I make a lot of efforts into not being the helicopter mom that I really am, and allowing her to be, her person and guiding her, but it takes time and practice. And so yeah, she has helped me a lot. I do love everything about her. Like I told you, I wish we could like hang out with her.
Yeah, Laura, let us know. We're free Friday
If you're
nights.
watching.
We really like you. We whatever.
I was telling her about how you and I are doing this, and I told her we were joking and that we were saying, "Hi, if Laura ever watches this, she's gonna be like, pues que no van a terapia estas," and she was cracking up.
She's gonna be like, listen, you guys are throwing everything out the window that I told you guys to do. You're not listening. Y que nos pregunte esta semana. No, we were
Yeah.
so good. We were like zen. She's like, I saw it.
So good. And then she watches the episode and we were like, yeah, I cursed this lady
Chinga su
out. I
madre.
slashed her tires.
Eesh, eesh. No, I told her
No, but
just
I think it's just the effort, the constant effort of like trying and trying, even if we mess up, right? Because we're not perfect.
mhm. I think it's just wanting better to be better and give better to the ones
Hmm.
around us, but not just. I think that we always pour for everybody, like out of our cup for everybody else. But I think
Hmm.
also
Hmm.
it's also for us. Like you should also want to have a better life and be more at peace. And like
Hmm.
it's crazy how it doesn't change the world, but it changes your aspect towards everything. It changes vives
Hmm.
more peaceful, more blissful, more positive. It doesn't mean that bad things aren't coming this way, but I don't have these like freakouts or like this anger built up in me. And I think it's a lot of like also just resentment that you get throughout the years, and you understand so much about yourself, like triggers that I didn't even know. Triggers that
Hmm. Hmm.
I just thought I'm that way. I'm just like a short fuse. Siempre me decían, eres un chiltepín. Es que Lolo te enchilas.
Hmm.
Es que eres bien
Same.
enojona. Es que, and it's like, well, yeah, I'm on, what's the word? Like survival mode for since I had
Hmm.
a kid.
Hmm.
I had Beta at 16. Like, yeah, of course, I'm on survival mode. And like, everyone has nothing but, and I get it. I'm not saying like, I'm not flaunting, like, wow, you should have a kid at 16. But like, when you hear since you're 16, like, ¿y cómo la vas a hacer? Y ya no la vas a hacer sin tus papás, y es que no vas a poder sola, y pobre niña, y que
Hmm.
just like the negative stuff.
Hmm.
And I'm like thinking back, y me agarro coraje todavía. I'm like, who says that? I'm not saying go and be like, congratulations, but what kind of
Right.
people have such mean energy to go and tell someone that's already going through something, oh, see, you're gonna fail. So yeah, you built this like,
Like
and then you,
hundirlos más, like kick them when they're down.
where do you see that it's
Yeah.
changed the most in the Natalia aspect?
I honest to God, I would say Natalia and my mom. Mostly my mom, I would say. Just because with Natalia, I think my biggest struggle with her is to not blow up, right? And then she's a child, and I have to remind myself, yeah, I told her 100 times to pick up her shoes, but you know what? Maybe it takes 101 times to do it. And I think with Natalia, I have more patience because I'm like, she's a child. Where with my mom, I'm like, no, you're an adult and you're my mom. So you should have patience with me. Obviously, that's not the right way to think, but that's how I had always approached it with my mom. And I have a lot more grace towards my mom. If there's something that my mom does that triggers me, I figure out why. And then, okay, well, where does that come from in my mom? And then I think about her relationship with her parents and her siblings, stuff like that. I don't know how to explain it. I just know that it has changed how I feel towards my mom, even when she's speaking things to me that I don't like. And so I'm able to say, you know what, mom, like what you said hurt me. Or, you know what, mom, please don't talk to me like that. I'm not going to accept you talking to me like that from now on. So don't do that. I'm starting to set limits and boundaries with my mom that I had never, ever done because that's my mom. And if my mom wanted to like yell at me, she was going to yell at me because she's my mom. So now I feel strong enough to say, I don't like this. This is why. And this is how it makes me feel. And if you don't do it, then I have to put space between you and me. Where before I was just like, you know what, mom? Then bye. You're never going to see me again. And then I would just stop talking to her for like, a couple days. So now it's a lot healthier. And I think my mom is also being more receptive towards me because I'm speaking to her and I'm telling her, hey, you're hurting my feelings. Where I don't think she realized that she was hurting my feelings with the things she was saying and doing.
Because they were accustomed to receiving and giving that feedback that it was like normal to them. Es como decir los buenos
Hmm.
días. For them, it
Hmm.
was just life. I also think, though, it's really difficult to talk about that to parents that are immigrants that came from Mexico, that have that culture that it's nomás no llores. If
Hmm.
Like, you have to respect, you have to be quiet. It's your parents, and there's no such thing as like boundaries with parents.
Hmm.
That's huge that you speak up because it is scary. It's scary
Hmm.
that it's ideas que desde chiquita te dicen you can't
Yeah,
speak up, you
la
can't.
costumbre.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing.
Yeah, and
And
it's just like the learning norms, right? Like, because the norm of the culture, is we're women. We're supposed to be submissive. We're supposed, just in general, just listen, obey, and then if it's coming from your parents, you just take it, you just do it, and they know better, and that's it, right? And so my mom has a very strong personality. It's her way or the highway. It always has been that way. And so when I would dislike what she said, I would just maybe a jab at her. And so it just wasn't proactive because she was here, then I was here, then she was up in me, and we were just taking it in nasty places. And now it has definitely improved a lot.
you know what's funny, when you said the that you're taught that you need to be submissive because you're a woman. And I told Laura that I think my biggest fight in life was that I never wanted to be submissive. I never wanted to be submissive. And it's still like in my vocabulary as something, and I know it shouldn't be, but something kind of negative. Being
Mhm, mhm. Dejada.
dejada, I'm very outspoken, I'm very confrontational. And I don't mean that I have to be mean from it, but I am very confrontational. I will tell you my feelings.
Brawling in the street.
Everyone's
That's how
going
we
to.
met. Just kidding.
Dale, Elsa. Go, Denise. I told her we figured it out. It was because de niña, my I think my parents are the typical parents. Well, the typical Mexican. I'm not saying all the parents are like that, but especially como cuando son de Chihuahua, I don't know it's very like macho, very, I don't know.
Los norteños. Yeah.
Sí. And my parents were always very like, my dad was a super strict dad. He was very como empiezabas a llorar, o yo era bien llorona, and like she blamed like, no, no llores, vete para tu cuarto si vas a llorar. I don't want to hear you, ya cállate. So my emotions were always like, you had to be quiet unless I was like a smiling like, good girl. Any other emotion that was crying, that was sad, that was upset, you had to shut up. Like, aquí está. No, there's no other options. Esto es, y si no quieres, cállate o vete para tu cuarto. And
Mhm.
as I grew older, and then you get into like relationships, it's the same thing. Dating trash men. Oh, like ya vas a empezar y andas haciéndola de pedo. Ay, nunca estás contenta. You always want more. And so your feedback, your emotions always have to be shut down. Why are you always crying? Like, you don't need to cry. You're so dramatic. Blah, blah, blah. So then it flipped and it triggered to something. Everyone's going to hear me in this world. You're going to hear me. You're going to hear my emotions. And it became this anti submissive. You're just going to hear everything that I say. No one's going to shut me down. And then she's like, eras como una ya depresión. She's like, you were just
Mhm,
putting your
mhm.
emotions in there. And then one day you're like, pop, everyone's going to hear it. And she's like, it's your inner
Mhm.
child that's wanting to be heard because no one ever heard her.
Yeah.
It's your inner
Mhm,
child que
mhm.
never got to make decisions. So I became a control freak. Todo controlaba yo. Ask any like past relation. It was like I had to control everything. I don't blame them now. But I just think that like it was this controlling, aggressive, I don't know. And I am still outspoken, but it was just a lot more aggressive. And it's because it was like a mad child that's like, hear me, you need to hear me, versus now that it's like I speak my mind,
Mhm.
but I'm like, I get it. We're fine. Like little Denise, we're fine. And I speak my mind, but I'm not as mad anymore. You learn also about that, the inner child. I never
Mhm.
understood that. I think there are things that like, has she talked to you about attachment styles?
You're talking about like with a partner?
No, how you were raised as a child. I think there's like four, and it's not love languages. It's like attachment
Mm.
styles.
Well, we talked about one, and it had to do with like me with Natalia, but I can't remember what she called it. But it was like anxious. detachment, something. I honestly, I'm gonna butcher that. I don't remember, but I think I know what you're talking about. I've only talked about it in regards to her, like my need to like know she's okay, my need to like constantly check in, things like that.
What's your fear? Like, nomás que le pasa algo? Is it just like the natural mom fears, or is it like something deeper?
Mm-mm. It's obsessive. It's obsessive. It got to the point where I couldn't sleep because I would keep getting up to check the door, the front door, that it was locked, even though I knew I locked it when I came in. I checked it before I went to bed. Then I checked it again. I knew it was locked, but I had to get up and make sure no one's going to come in, take her from me. I used to always just say, like, nothing's happened. Like, there's no tragedy that's ever happened to me for me to be this way. But I understood that it was just my mom is very much a helicopter mom to this day. And then it only intensified for me when I had a child. I had the way that I knew my mom would take care of us only till the 10th degree because now it's just me, right? Where my mom, it was like my mom and my dad. It's gone a lot better, like I said, which is letting go of the rope a little bit, giving her some independence and especially in her teenage years as she's a tween and she is dragging me to the mud.
Tienen
So I
dicho
think
que
that naturally that's the stage when we pull away, right? And if your mom is like this, then I think it's not going to benefit her and it's not going to benefit me. But man, everybody talks about the teen years, but nobody talks about the tween years. It's
that's the
rough
hard.
here.
It's just because of all the hormones. And I think they're also scared of what the heck is happening with me, not just physically, your body changing and stuff, but your hormones are out of whack.
Mhm.
Si uno, cuando está embarazada o cuando estás on your period,
Mhm.
you don't even understand the reasons why you're upset. I think she's
Mhm.
such a
Mhm.
beautiful girl. She's so sweet, so kind. Y le digo a ver, and I'm like, she just has such a good heart. And it's funny because a ti nunca te dijeron, espérate que tengas tu hija, verás cómo te va a ir. I can't wait for you to have a daughter just like you. A ti nunca te dijeron eso.
My mom. My
A mí,
mom, but that's it. Nobody else ever told me. Sometimes I ask my dad, did I act like that? Like at that age? And my dad's like, no. But my dad thinks Natalia's developing at the right rate or age, and I didn't. I was very because my parents are very strict, very Catholic, very like it was just me and my home, you know. So I wasn't as exposed to life as Natalia. And so
mm,
I naturally was just very what's the word like cohibida or I don't want to say underdeveloped, but you know I was kind of like behind on my
because I was
stages
very
and stuff like
developed.
that. Yeah, so I do say sometimes when she like gives me a hard time, I'm not paying for my duties. I'm paying for his. Something he did, and I'm paying for it because she's dragging me. She doesn't drag him through the mud. She drags me. So I'm like, I'm paying on your behalf, sir. You owe
They
me.
say that's because that's where they feel safe to let out their
Mhm,
emotions because
mhm,
they
mhm,
obviously won't leave that somewhere
mhm,
else. A mí me
mhm.
decían,
Yeah,
espérate que tengas tu hija. I can't wait for you to have a daughter just like you because again, I was labeled like mula, outspoken, like,
see.
and I don't think Vera has the same personality, but I also think it's because we're being raised way differently. We're being raised,
Mhm,
and I'm like, I don't think I would have been that bad. And I don't think I was, but I think you're just misunderstood again because you weren't the smiling, like perfect good girl, like that
mhm,
says
mhm.
yes to everything. Then that turns into people pleasing because then that's the only time you get love,
The
affection, or
reward.
the reward
Mhm,
when you're people
mhm,
pleasing, when you're doing things that they want. That
mhm.
and it's crazy how
Yes.
these things come out and like I never thought I was a people pleaser. I always thought that like no, like
Me
I don't
neither. I thought I
and
was the opposite. I was like, yo hago lo
yeah,
que yo quiera.
see, I was like, yeah, I don't care about them. And she like we talked about it one time. We were talking about a subject that I kept saying yes to somebody that I wanted to say no to. And I felt then that I was being taken advantage of. I felt that the friendship was very one sided, and I felt that what started off from good faith, from me wanting to help somebody, then
Mhm.
turned into like me getting mad. And I'm like, and I don't want to be mad at that person for that. And besides that, they're a good friend. And she's like, do you think you're a people pleaser? And I'm like, no, I'm not a people pleaser. And we got into that. Like, you can be a people pleaser with people that you love. Like, that's when you get your reward. And it's true because you do everything to make everybody else happier. So it's this weird balance of people pleasing, but also doing things for the people you love. But I think once it turns into, I felt like it was abuse, like taking advantage of my friendship and my me saying yes. That's when it turned into people pleasing because I'm no longer doing
Mhm.
it
Mhm.
out of my heart. Now I'm doing it because like I want to not have
Va quedar
conflict.
bien.
Not have conflict, and it's because
Mhm.
someone
Mhm.
I do want in my life. Makes sense?
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
And I always thought people pleasing was just saying
I
yes
always
to everything.
to everything. Yeah,
Everything.
exactly. And that was a big one for me too, just because I feel like I have always had that yo mando attitude. I do what I want. And so when she had asked me, and I was like, I have lived my whole life trying to please my mom and dad. I mean, the world may crumble around me, but if my mom and dad are happy with what I'm doing, well served. And obviously, then in comes Natalia and work like your boss or whatever. Of course, you want to do good work. You want them to be proud of what you do, or you're being a good friend, you're being supportive, or like, even if my calendar is like tight, I can squeeze you in. Like, that's fine. Even though if it means like I'll get less time to sleep, or I had told myself it was going to be my alone time. And because you want to hang out, we're going to hang out, and I'm compromising myself. Right. So then I had to learn that I was doing that. And so I also started taking time off from work when I need it, not just because I have something to do, but like I really need a couple of days to myself and just with myself. And that has felt so good. And Laura always tells me, like, the office didn't go on, no se prendió en fuego, no sé, el trabajo is still there. And it's true. And it's true. And I was always that person. I was always like, no, me tengo que matar en el trabajo. And now I'm like, can't wait.
I, for so long, gave the job my everything that like, I remember one time I came home like at midnight and I was crying. I saw the kids that they were asleep and I was like, why am I getting such a job that because you want bigger goals and everything's material? And I'm like, if I don't get to see the kids and this is when I see them, that's horrible. Or if they talk to me, I'm don't hold on, I'm responding to emails or hold on, and like you're stressed. I was stressed 24/7. And I'm like, it's
Mhm, mhm.
not worth it. But quitting my job, I did lose a lot of my identity and it was huge. That was a huge
Yeah.
therapy talk for like 4 months because you build that personality de que nadie me manda y yo puedo y que like, and it's all
Mhm,
revolved around your work and then your confidence in the work and you control. Me dijo una vez, what's the thing that you're most in control? I'm like, my job, because I know what to do, I know what not to do, I know like everything else, and nothing else you can control in life. And losing my one thing that I felt that I was in control of was such a struggle.
but then I think at this point in my life where I'm like, can I reinvent myself? Even if it means different career, different everything. And it's okay, and it's helping me not be afraid of that, because I felt like I was losing my purpose and I was losing my joy in the things that I do, even though I like doing them. They just weren't, I just wasn't enjoying it anymore. And I'm working on that with her, like figuring out what is the change that, where do I want to go next? And it's okay to have a change, because at the end of the day, happiness looks different for everyone. And
Mm-hmm.
it's a constant evolving stage, because what makes me happy today may not make me happy in 5 years. And that's okay. You adapt. And that's what makes us human, the ability to feel and adapt and change. And change is hard, but
I
sorry.
agree. Just because that's what's gonna make you happy it can change and it's okay. And it doesn't mean that like because you make that decision today that if 3 years from now you're like, you know what, this isn't serving the purpose anymore, well, you can change.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
had
Mhm.
that feeling where I used to love my job. It was always stressful, but it turned into something that I hated. I hate it was like 13 years. And I'm like, it served its purpose. I want something different. I realized I'm like, it's okay. And if I quit and if I want to go back, I can go back. Like, so what?
I told my dad I'm ready to be a stay-at-home daughter again.
You're like,
So I really
okay.
enjoy the stage of my life. Yeah,
Yes.
I did this adult thing. Okay, go back
Yeah.
home, please. What is something that you are working on or would like to continue to work on as far as your mental health journey? What is something that maybe you haven't touched on or it's been hard to work on?
I think we've worked on a lot of things. I think obviously the depression we worked on right away. And then with that came anxiety because of the anxiety of driving and then all sorts of different anxieties that come with such big changes in my life of me leaving my job, me now being stay at home, lots of stuff. But I think it's such a weird thing. People think that therapy, like, como que tienes que tener something wrong. And I think it's more
Mm.
like self awareness, self everything. I think at the last session that we had, I'm like, everything's like pretty fine. We have it relationship wise with the kid, like, everything has been really good, but we're still working a lot on our inner child. I think I'm still very mad. I think I have,
Mm.
I think I'm very mad. I still have triggers, and those triggers are brought not from now. I'm like, I'm not mad at you now, but I have a lot of resentment. But I do think I'm close. When I say I'm close with my family, like it's very like you're there when you need each other. They're like my parents are super supportive. Eso sí, siempre. I
Mhm.
just
Mhm.
think that emotional has never been there. And I think the emotional is there with them when you're in need. When the whole accident happened, they were very emotionally there. But I think besides that, then they're like, oh, okay, she's strong again. Like, back off, like emotionally. But if you need anything,
Mm.
like,
Mhm.
I'll still be
Mhm.
here. Those, and it was like that still as a child. Like, I think, and I know it's because that's how they were raised. I know that's machos, like, no tienen que enseñar, los hombres no lloran, like, blah, blah, blah. And
Mhm.
that's how
Mhm.
my mom was raised. So that's how my mom is as well. And I think sometimes that can turn into resentment of that I feel inside as a child that like why if I can tell my kids 1,000 times a day, te amo, why didn't I get that? Like why porque no te nació a ti?
Right.
But I that's where I'm like, I don't want ever my kids ever to like think, why didn't she try harder? Because she tried her best. And that's something that I kept telling Laura, whether it's if I had an issue with Luis and I'm like, it's because he didn't do it the right way. He didn't do it. He needs to try harder. And she's like, what if that's his best? I'm like, no, because I've done better. And she's like, yeah, but that's you. Like, the same
Yeah.
thing with every other relationship. I always think like, why didn't you try harder? Why I can do better? Why can't you do better? I think that like they were dealt with different lives that I sometimes am scared to
Mhm.
even know. Because sometimes the stories that I've heard, it's like you have some deep rooted trauma that like you probably need to work on.
Mhm.
I think that's the one that I just told her in the last session that I still want to work on, that I want to enjoy all the relationships that I have in my life without wanting it to be my way. I think every relationship I've had, whether it's like romantic, family, friends, I want to enjoy it, but like be the best version of yourself. I want you to be better like this way. And I think this is the right way. So you need to do it the right way. I want to let go of that. And I want to love you and
Mhm.
enjoy your relationship without getting triggered that you're doing the wrong things. Or to me, they're to me
Yes,
are
that
the
you're
wrong.
trying.
I think that's where right now I've struggled. We've touched the subject here and there, but it's consistently been touched. But this is what I want to focus on because I don't want to live a life.
Nail down.
Hmm. What do you think that
Mhm.
you've struggled or you that? you still want to work on in therapy?
Definitely continuing to improve as a parent, acquire more skills to be able to help Natalia through whatever changes that she's going through, helping myself out because there's times when I have big projects going on. I am just stressed just because that's how I've always lived my life. I doubt myself. I feel like I'm going to fail for no reason. And so I'm learning to trust myself. And I want to continue to do that because I have big plans, I have big goals, I have big things I want to accomplish. And even this is scary sometimes. I get nervous, and that's with anything and everything. And I'm learning to trust myself. Like, I know I got this. I know how to do this project. I've done it before, or I'm a problem solver. If something comes up, I can fix it. Or even if it was switching careers, believing that I can do this career that I like and believing enough to apply or things like that.
Mm-hmm. Have you had in therapy any talks about feeling the feelings of guilt or like shame?
Yeah, I think when it comes to some of my parenting,
Oh,
I've experienced it there. But
perfect. Do you feel comfortable saying what?
I do feel guilty how much I work. I was thinking about that the other day where I thought there's an amount of time that I can justify by like, okay, but I do this with her at the end of the day. Or I make sure that even though I worked most of the day, and she was at school, that we still have that bond time at the end of the day, or we're doing something fun or something good or talking. I always make sure that like I ask her about her day, things like that. And I'm learning to not feel guilty if I'm working the necessary amount. I don't feel like I've missed out in her life, but I definitely am not with her as much as a typical mom would, or maybe as much as like my mom spent with us. And I think that my mom does see that negative in me, where she's like, well, I was always with you. You were always with me. And it's so different now. And so that would always carry a lot of guilt for me. Things like that, where I just experienced guilt in decisions I had made or failed to do. I mean, the biggest one that I'm not with her dad, right? Like
That's
that
my
is
biggest.
something that it just eats me up. And obviously, that's something that I still struggle forgiving myself for it. On Friday, she came home and she said that she was basically bullied for the first time in regards to being a child of parents who were separated. And she said that it really hurt her feelings. And she asked that we talk to the teacher. And Natalia has never asked me to talk to a teacher. Obviously, the guilt like creeps in, and I'm like, oh my god, like if I would have just stayed, or if I would have tried harder, all these things that I already processed in my mind in that moment of weakness, it comes back. So then I have to reprogramarme in that moment. Whoa, hey, stop those thoughts. Let's not go there. Let's think about the good things that have come out of this. And her dad and I talked to her and said, like, you, even though we're not together, we're great friends.
I think that's one of the biggest guilt as a mom when you're not with their parents anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I think I feel even guiltier because I have two people that I have to co-parent with, and one of them I choose not to because it's like there's nothing that's going to come out of it. I have had to always do it on my own. I haven't had any support from it. And then from Mateo's that it's like it's genuinely toxic. So I think it's even more guilty. I've tried and I can die tomorrow and say I've tried my best. I've came with support, with love, and it's just like you're not making this work, and my guilt is like, and I chose you, and I feel like
Oh,
it's
I
my
know.
fault. I feel like it's my fault. But I do think that it's like, why couldn't you have chosen someone better? Why couldn't you
Mhm.
have chosen someone
I
that would have cared for Mateo enough to change? And then they're amazing Instagram dads. Like, don't get me wrong. On Instagram, they're like amazing. I feel guilty for the decisions that I make and that they have to because I don't come from parents that are divorced and I don't know what that feels like. And I'm very sensitive to it, making sure that they're okay. I think it's hard and it comes with a lot of guilt.
Yeah, because even if Nathan's dad and I get along, we still are not together. She's still having to go through this pain, and so the guilt is there in the way, maybe not as like, man, I wish I would have picked a different guy, but I wish I would have made it work.
I have a question. You said that you tried couples therapy, and I'm assuming it's with him before. Why did you not like it? What was it that made you hate it? Why do you think it's different, or why do you think it's more important to have your own therapy versus couples?
Well, I feel like I wish that I would have gone to therapy myself to work on myself at the same time as I was trying to work on my relationship. Some of the things that happened in our relationship, I didn't know how to sort in my mind. I just know that I tried so hard to forget everything. So, so hard. And I go into therapy and it's
Mhm,
like I'm undigging everything that I worked so hard to put in there. And with this therapy, it's
mhm,
totally a different experience. And at the time when I was in couples therapy, I was like, you knew you were doing wrong and that I was going to get hurt, and you still did it. I would get out and look at him and I'd be like, man, why am I with this? Like, why am I with the person that disrespected me like that? And I was just so angry. I was just so hurt. And I think I never felt like he was sorry that he did it. I feel like he was sorry he got caught.
mhm,
Then
mhm.
I think that eventually the sincere apologies came. I feel like it took us losing each other to realize the damage we've done to each other, what we had in each other. But obviously, at that point, the damage is done.
I also think that sometimes you have triggers that you don't understand. And in couples therapy, you're just
Mhm.
pointing the finger.
My dad used to always tell me, give him some grace. You guys grew up so different. I had my mom and dad, he grew up with a single mom who worked very hard to provide for him, and she didn't have the ability to like physically and emotionally be there for him maybe the way that like my mom is not very emotionally available. My dad is. And so I kind of always had my dad looking
Balance.
the emotion part. And so not to put his business out there, but sorry, Gustavo. Okay. But it me decía mi papá, just give him some grace. He's learning how to be a dad. He's figuring out the dad that he wants to be, what works, what doesn't. He's never had a healthy relationship. And I got to give the guy, credit for the fact that he improved during our relationship. But at the time the improvement was coming in, I was so hurt. I was so broken. I was so damaged that I didn't see the improvement. I was just like, no.
It's not enough.
I mean, I was already broken. You can't shatter the sculpture, glue it back together, and expect it to look like there's no cracks there. And I didn't know how to forgive, which has taken me a long time. And it was so funny because I was telling my mom some of the attention he has with me now. If this man would have had those attentions with me when we were together, we would still be together. And not to fault him, but some of the things he does for me now that I'm like, damn, dude, like, where was this?
He probably
Yeah,
also
I mean,
grows a
the good thing
person.
is that he learned, he grew, he's improved. And I'm not putting him, I'm not, this is not an advertisement or a marketing for y'all to go date him. Tampoco, tampoco.
Unless you're gonna be a good
I'm
like
not like putting my stamp of approval and then you get hurt and you come back and you're like, but you said the guy had improved.
he was 70% improved.
Yeah.
70. Not full
Work in
100.
progress.
Yes.
Yeah, I told Laura before, I wish I would have met her so many years ago and that I would have been able to heal myself or like work on myself and be able to recognize a lot of things and to get to be the parent I wanted to be from day one.
Yeah, but I look at it like things happen for a reason. There's a reason for everything. I think things are always working in my favor. I think it also teaches the kids you can always seek help. You can always change. You don't have to be like 18. No one could have helped you because you wouldn't have had this huge load. This is,
Mm-hmm,
like to
mm-hmm.
dissect. And I think that's what makes it so powerful. But I think that things happen in its moment for a reason.
Yeah. I couldn't have had her with anyone else. So I'm so grateful for my baby. And physically, she looks just like her dad. Sometimes my family would ask me, "Do you look at her and do you think of her dad because she looks so much like him?" And I never did. But now, as a tween, she gets mad and she has this look she gives me of disapproval. I'm like, "Yep, I guess I see her dad. I see her dad now."
I know that you said that she doesn't like hearing that she looks like her dad, so I try not to say it. And I think it's also because you don't want to look like a boy. When you're little, you're at that age,
That's
you're
what
not
it
supposed
is.
to.
That's what it
Yeah.
is.
No, she's like, I don't want to have a mustache.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's the dad.
Oh,
It's the boy
why?
thing. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Let's wrap up and say what are two things that you're grateful for right now?
Right now, I am grateful for this venue to be able to share things about ourselves that maybe
Hmm.
we hadn't shared. I know there's a lot of stuff that I haven't shared with other people, and to growth. Now I'm grateful that I'm expanding my resources to be the best human I could possibly be.
I love it. I am thankful and grateful for my growth as well. I I admire it. I give my kudos because it's been drastic the change that I've seen. And for being resilient, taking the
Mhm.
punches that life has given me, but I'm not mad. And I have a different view for it instead of being mad, like, oh, why is this happening? Or why is it me? Or por qué siempre? No, it's like, okay, this is teaching me something and I'm going to have a positive view on it. And I think that was a
Mhm.
lot harder to see back then. So I am grateful that I have that
Yeah.
now.
Taking off the blindfolds.
Hmm. I think it's easy to be negative.
Mhm.
I think it's harder to be positive. And especially,
Mhm.
it depends also who you
Yeah,
surround
it's
yourself
true.
with. But sometimes people are just,
Mhm.
there's people that dimmer your light.
Well, thank you for joining us. And as always, let us know what you like, didn't like, anything you want to hear us talk about. We are open for suggestions.
Hmm. I can't wait for next time.
Yeah. See you next time. Bye.
Bye.